Um, all right, so evidence of connectedness to the real world, or wonderings about connectedness to the real world?
Well, it was project-based. It was collaborative work because there was a huddle, so to speak, of students working on something that was hands-on. And I do think that he utilized various technologies. I guess my wondering is, it's like organized chaos, and there needs to be like concise systems in the room, because as he bounces from one group to the next, they just get off task as soon as he leaves them. And there was like one student in the corner who wasn't doing anything, then there was a student in the back that wasn't, and there were a couple of tables. And I wonder what the other students were responsible for while he was working with the group in the center of the room.
So the kids having a better sense of the direction of
right.
Good. Other evidence or wondering around connectedness to the real world?
When I talk to different students, they in different portions, those in the center were the students who either did not finish a certain portion of the assignment, or they were gathering more information that those students that were around the perimeter they'd already had. You know, it was that was from talking to two different sets of students, and it seemed like the students that had already done what they were doing in the middle and had their charts and they had collected enough information. I was wondering what they were doing. They weren't off task. They were reorganizing the information that they had to put into a complete form. But I did, you know, from one group to another, wonder, you know, if the students started to drift, it could cause a little bit of a problem. You know what I mean? I could see some students that they were very, you know, calm about it, but you know, if time goes on, what would they do?
The students on the perimeter, were they learning? The ones who were doing that work?
I think they learned faster. They caught on much faster to what was going on in the lesson, and they were done.
And then did they have enough direction to keep moving on for themselves?
I know that just from listening at it, that students in a couple of those outside groups are very high-performing students.
Exactly.
So I got
we know. Yeah. I knew a couple of them that have told me they, you know, want to be engineers, for example, and they've loved. But you know, one that I talked to that has told me from day one that she's, you know, this is her favorite class. You know, she's a high-performing student, and she enjoys the class thoroughly. You know, so I'm not sure, you know, how to, you know, judge that, or, you know, but it means a lot.
For those of you that were talking to students, could they articulate what they were working on? Not sort of the steps they were taking, but...
They could tell you that they were measuring, you know, volume. They could tell you that. I think they understood, they had some background knowledge on that. But they would also be able to tell you that, you know, why I'm doing it is just because it's math and it's physics, and that's about it. And when I asked the girl who was on the outside, you know, like, what can you do with this at home? She was like, nothing. And then I was like, what do you do when you cook? And she was like, oh yeah, I do use volume. So I don't think they understood the real world connection between what they were doing. I thought they just sort of assumed that because he told them you have to learn volume, and I think in math they're currently doing that as well, that that's just why they do it, you know.
Yeah.
It just seemed very like very traditional, like this is just why I need to do it because he told me to do it, and if I learned it already I was in luck. If I didn't learn it, I was doing remedial.
And you're in the science lab and you're using equipment, so it must be science.
Right.
Yeah,
but not really what was the
jargon.
investigation. That's what I couldn't, that's what.
One of the things I thought was interesting, I was talking to the kids on the side, and I said, okay, so you're going to help me on this one because I dropped out of physics. So if biology is the study of the science about life and life forms, and chemistry is a science that deals with chemicals and the way they interact and elements, then what is physics the study of? And I got a variety of answers, and one of them said, well, the consensus was, I don't know, but one of them said, he was trying to deduce, and he said, it's the study of Earth. And so I thought, but I thought it was interesting that they didn't bring some of the more basic kind of concepts of what even what this science is. It is science because we're doing experiments, but what's it a science of?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The rigor's not there. It's for this time of the year, you'd sort of expect the students to have a lot more. They should be able to articulate past experience and be able to say, well, the graduated cylinder, you're like, it tells me like the volume and it's got measurement, so I can like put water in it. Like there is no idea beyond.
Was there any scientific method there? Like what was the hypothesis, or what was I trying to test? You know?
No, I think they're just mimicking what he had told them.
Yeah, that's what.
It was an activity.
So they were doing science.
It was an activity before the actual lesson. So if you know, like it was planned around the activity, and hopefully they would get that we were studying volume.
And I was wondering, because I talked to the kids, I said, well, what are you working on now? And they were working on a group quiz, which group quizzes, I don't know how those function, period. How do you assess that? And I said, was that connected to what you just did with the experiments? And they said, no. It's something that we've been working on for the past 2 weeks, but it wasn't directly connected to what they were working on in class today. So I was just wondering how that worked out.
Was that the table that you were sitting next to? Because I wonder what that was.
I mean, it was great with the hands-on aspect. I mean, Cannon is amazing. I'm tired just sitting there watching him bounce from place to place. He really, for 6 periods, does that and expends that amount of energy. It's incredible. But I don't know that that would be an environment that I could learn in, especially if I'm trying to figure out math problems, do the equations. There's too much going on in that for a lab setting, and it was a little bit disorganized and organized chaos, all of these, but I don't know. I think he's working really hard, and the students aren't working as hard as they should.
Yeah, it's too much teacher.
Yeah.
Not enough kid.
So it kind of goes to show, it's like you can have a lot of this stuff in place, you know, the hands-on, like I think you initially, you know, checked off, like he is creating that kind of environment, right, for all these conditions. But then, you know, what's the onus on the kids, and
Yeah, I mean the problem
what are
is
the connections the kids are making?
it's the working as an effective team member. The kids are not working. The teacher and the kids are sort of disconnected. They're not a team altogether. Like the kids are sort of waiting for him to take over. So.